Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Team that has not got too high with the highs or too low with the lows. We just stay poised, and once you're able to stay poised as our team did this weekend and last weekend, I think it puts you in a position to think clearly and make good decisions out there. And when you're able to do that, you win a lot of basketball games.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us. And for the first time of this program, and for the first time in the history of the great state of South Carolina, we can say welcome to Final Four week and actually have a real interest in the Final Four. Now, it's the women's Final Four, but it counts. And congratulations to the USC women for getting to the Final Four this weekend in Tampa. They will play Notre Dame at a time to be determined on a Sunday evening, either early or later in the night, with a chance to move on to the national championship. What a performance in the second half, really from about the two-thirds part of the first half into the second half. And then a battle down the stretch really didn't take over until Tiffany Mitchell said, I'm going to win this thing for us. She really dominated the last 2 minutes as they beat Florida State, a very good Florida State team, in what was a heck of a game, a very physical game, bodies all over the court. Both teams just selling out guys, the kind of game you expect in a regional championship in a site where USC basketball probably had its greatest moment. NIT championships aside, SEC regular season championship aside, winning the 1971 ACC tournament championship in that building would be South Carolina's high watermark in basketball.
At the same basket, I think they ended up playing.
I think it was.
Yeah, it's interesting. The difficult thing I thought South Carolina had with them right now, other than the fact that the big ogre still sits there for everybody, and that's UConn, is the fact that sometimes when you make a meteoric rise, Phil, you adjust from being the hunter to the hunted all in one fell swoop. And I think South Carolina got the best of North Carolina. Of course, they were on Tobacco Road. And I think for the state, so they had to meet expectations. And for a team that blew out a lot of teams, for them to execute the way they did down the stretch in a nail-biter in 2 games tells me Dawn State is one heck of a coach.
They look like a team that will take the other team's best punch, with the exception of, say, Connecticut, will take their best punch and then recover from that and go on and win a ball game. They've had to do that practically in every game in this NCAA tournament.
Yeah, but with the exception of maybe Savannah State and a little bit of Syracuse. But they were tested in the regular season, and that's one thing Dawn Staley has said throughout. They felt like going through the SEC slate, they were tested, playing teams like Tennessee and Texas A&M and Kentucky, highly ranked teams that they had been through some battles to prepare them for those types of matchups.
We'll hear from Dawn Staley, Steve Spurrier, Dabo Sweeney, Jerry Myers, and more, all tonight on Sports Talk. That's one of those nights where we are just full of it. It's all good stuff that we'll share with you. We'll work in some phone calls here in just a moment. 800-956-7266. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. Twitter at sportstalksc. Let me run through some major news items that we have to get to. First of all, the Citadel today announced and introduced Duggar Balcom as its new basketball coach, number 30 in the men's history. He comes to the Citadel after 10 years at VMI, where he was 151 and 159. And his overall record, including 2 seasons at Tusculum, 187 and 178. I'll tell you what, you bet about 500 at VMI. That's kind of like Les Robinson at the Citadel. That's looked at as maybe some other school winning about 75% of your games. And he will bring an exciting style to Citadel basketball. They will go up and down the court, and they will shoot the three. We'll let you hear what he had to say at his introduction news conference coming up a little bit later on. Also, sticking with college basketball, reports Tennessee has offered Rick Barnes their job, and he's expected to accept. Deal could be finalized by the end of today. 17 years at Texas, 16 NCAA tournaments. Hard to believe little Ricky is now 60 years old, and he's getting closer to his hometown of Hickory, North Carolina, as he'll be living in Knoxville. Meantime,
that's a great hire.
Oh, another former Clemson coach. Clemson fans have got to be thinking, we had Rick Barnes and we had Shaka Smart. No knock on Brad Brownell, but Shaka Smart is in discussions with Texas, according to sources. And he's been at VCU since 2009, went to the 2011 Final Four, has passed up other big-time opportunities the last 5 years. And if he turns them down, it says the Longhorns likely will turn their attention to Utah's Larry Kristoviak or Xavier's Chris.
But Greg Marshall, he's not in play there at Texas. I figured they could go after
Alabama.
He's at Alabama.
Alabama AD Bill Battle meeting today with Greg Marshall to discuss that opening and about $3 million plus per year to go there.
But here's a question again. Okay, Shaka Smart to Texas. Tevin Mack goes to Texas, or does he get his release and goes where he wants to go?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, I saw him at the Carolinas All-Star Class later tonight. South Carolina lost both games, by the way. Tevin Mack is, I'm watching an All-Star game now, but he is a talent. He scored 27 points, but he did it without overexerting himself. You know, a lot of guys can score points,
volume shooters,
but they've got to take a bunch of shots.
Exactly.
Yeah, this guy, he got his 27, and he did it in a very efficient manner. You know, the bad thing from a South Carolina standpoint in that game was that the young man from Chesney, the high-scoring guard, he only took 4 shots, I believe. This guy that was averaging 40 points per game, and he did not get his scoring opportunities. But you can tell he's going to Upstate, and he has got a heck of an offensive game. He can jump. Man, can he leap. And he'll be a big-time – he'll replace Ty Green there at Upstate and be a big-time player for them. All right, a couple of other things to pass along. Clemson football practice today, and we'll hear from Dabo Swinney coming up. But just fill you in on a couple of notes here from David Hood, who was out there. Let's see here. Injury-wise, Stanton Seckinger was running during practice. Bulky brace on his left knee. Of course, he's coming off a knee injury. DJ Greenlee, Adam Choice. We're moving around, running during practice. Mylan Richard is on crutches and a cast, has that torn ligament in an ankle. Jadar Johnson was in yellow for today's practice. What else did he note here? Hyatt was at left tackle. Jake Frew-Morgan at right tackle. Noah Green also played some left tackle. Zach Gaiella getting some work at center. And Sterling Johnson, defensive lineman, was wearing a chest protector during practice. Redshirt freshman Ebenezer Okendeko, competing for a defensive end spot, was very vocal during practice today, Mr. Hood cites. And let's see here. C.J. Spiller was at today's practice watching the Tigers work out. So there you go. We'll hear from Dabo coming up. Oh, David Hood writes that Nick Schuessler was the better quarterback of the three, the other two being Kelly Bryant and Tucker Israel. He likes Nick Schuessler and what he showed today. Baseball polls. South Carolina is heading south. Baseball America USC falls to 18 from 12, and it is Vandy, Texas A&M, LSU, Florida, and TCU, your top 5 there. Coastal Carolina breaks into the poll at number 23. Big weekend for them. They took 2 out of 3 from Winthrop. They're 20-7. Collegiate baseball. South Carolina is now 22 from 13, and Coastal Carolina is in that poll as well at number 30. And it's Texas A&M, followed by TCU, Vandy, UCLA, and LSU, your top 5 there. And by the coaches, South Carolina falls from 8 to 13. Coastal does not make the coaches poll. Texas A&M is ranked number 1 there. All right, 800-956-7266. Of course, South Carolina picked up a pair of football commitments over the weekend. We'll go into that more in recruiting, but they get the wide receiver from Conway, and they get the running back out of North Carolina. So 2 good offensive pickups for South Carolina. Give you the complete recruiting wrap-up coming up a little bit later on. All right, to phones we go. And Hank in Columbia, you're up first. It's Final Four week, a real Final Four week in South Carolina. Good to have you with us.
Hey, Kill, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, I just wanted to give a shout-out to the girls. Excellent job. Was up there for both games, and the girls really showed that they to play in a tight game, and really the way they executed, and no matter what the teams were doing, with that bench being so long, they were able to go and find the players, and the players were ready when they were asked to step up. So big shout out. And did you get up there for any of the games, Corn?
Yeah, I was up there yesterday.
I just want to give another big shout out for Gamecock Nation, Gamecock fans. Yesterday, much like Friday night, if you were in that arena, you could tell there was another team there, but you could really tell that the Gamecock fans showed up and really pushed the team on. And just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. And congratulations to the girls with them in Tampa.
Thank you very much, and thanks for listening to us in Columbia on The Point. They had over 6,000 was the official attendance for yesterday's game, 6,364. And I would dare say 6,364. I would dare say 6,000 were Gamecock fans. There weren't many Florida State fans. And they were loud and they were supportive, and the team responded. I mean, the Gamecocks shot 68% in the first half. But the problem was turnovers, number 1. They had 11 turnovers in the first half. And number 2, they were getting killed on their defensive glass. Florida State was getting a lot of offensive rebounds in the first half. Now, they cleaned that up in the second half and did a better job in both categories. But Gamecock fans turned out in huge numbers, as they do, whatever the sport happens to be, when their team is doing well. They show great support. And, of course, this is unique. This is the first ride of this nature now, and they're going to support you. They're going to be a lot of Gamecock fans, I'm sure, trying to get down to Tampa. I imagine that arena seats about 20,000 or so, 21,000. That ticket may be more difficult to come by because it is the Final Four. It is the national championship
St.
weekend.
Petersburg News Arena. Is that what they still call it?
I have to look up the
St.
official
Pete
name.
Times Forum, even though it's not in St. Pete.
It's in Tampa.
It's in
Sits
Tampa,
right on
but
the
it's
water.
named after the St. Petersburg newspaper. I think another draw is Dawn Staley. I think people literally like her.
Well, they should.
So they like her and they like the team, and they are really following, this team. I think it'd be interesting how many trek down to Tampa.
I think a bunch will if they can get their hands on the tickets. Again, it's not like it was for the regional where tickets where you could walk up and get tickets. I'm sure you'll be able to do that for the Final Four. Thanks for the call. We'll be right back.
Connor Mitch was 6 of 11 with 1 intercept. Perry Orr,
All right, Clemson football practice today. Got more on that coming up. USC scrimmaged on Saturday at Williams-Brice, closed to the public and the media. But Steve Spurrier did come over to talk to the media boys and ladies to give them his review of the scrimmage. Here we go.
So anyway, we came out and let the quarterbacks pitch it around a bit. I was hoping I'll get at least 10 throws. So we had 11, 9, and 12. So it was pretty good practice for the quarterbacks. Receivers did pretty well. Still had several drops. Dan August caught 5, I think. Other than that, the guys caught some and dropped some too. Some of these could have been caught also. But other than that, I don't think anybody got hurt, which is always priority. And defense did some good things here and there. But overall, it was pretty good, I thought, for the offensive guys. How many touchdowns we score? 2 or 3? Didn't score many, but made some yards and got stymied on the 2 or 3 yard line a few times, I guess.
Is anyone stepping up as the second receiver?
It's pretty much wide open. Shamir Jeffrey caught one and went backwards and lost the first down on 4th and 5. He turned a 6-yard gain into 4. So I had to try to explain to him, priority is making the first down after you catch it. But that's good for us that stuff like that happens, and hopefully we can learn from it. The O-line did okay. We had some protection issues early, but I think we got 6 linemen, so they played the whole scrimmage, 6 offensive linemen. They went the distance and hung in there pretty good. DJ Park, Donnell Stanley, I think they went every snap, so they hung in there pretty well. They're coming around.
Sounds like this. I mean, when you play the spring game in the 11, you got the same 5, 6 guys.
That's what we do. The offense will wear garnet, and the defense will wear white, and then the quarterback on the black team will wear black jersey, and then garnet jersey on the garnet team. That's the way we do it.
But does the O-line have to go both ways? Because you only have 6, 7 offensive linemen.
Where have you been lately?
Honestly, I'm saying that we're going to go both ways.
Yeah, they play for both teams.
A lot of snaps.
Offense plays for both teams. Defense plays for both teams. Yeah. You just got to figure out the score. See, when the black team is on the field, the quarterback has a black jersey on. Okay, same lineman. It's the same lineman on both teams. All right, there you go. And same lineman on the defensive team too. That's our creative way of having a spring game and keeping score.
So it's not for the O-line.
D-line, they played both teams also. All right. What else we got, man? Anything? Yeah. Perry's doing fine. Perry throws a nice ball. He just, hadn't played much, but he knows what to do. And Skarnecki is coming around. And this was, like I said, real good for all 3 of those guys, just learning to get the ball out of their hands is something they got to learn how to do. They've never had to do it. So it's a quick, fast game, fast decisions by the quarterback. So this was, I think, some good work for all of them.
And our personal thanks to Scott Hood, Gamecock sent questioning and his attempt to figure out how they handle the scoring in the spring game. Good luck with that. We'll be right back. We are back, Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia. Our studio's on Main Street. That's what makes Sports Talk, the Sports Talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, the Professor Tom Hayes. So many people ask me why we call you the Professor.
Okay.
I simply said because he's the smartest man in the room. So we call him the Professor. And
Smartest
the state man,
smartest.
State man Graham Pope. A lot of people want to know why we call him Graham, because that's his birth name.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we call him Graham. State man Graham Pope. We'll get back to calls and more coming up. We have got a very busy show for you. Let's roll into some Gamecock baseball as we welcome in Gamecock pitching coach Jerry Myers to Sports Talk. It was a tough week for the Gamecocks. I'm sure it's a week they'd sooner forget than think about. So we won't keep you tuned in to last week too much, Coach. We'll move forward here in a moment. But what's your take on, from a pitching standpoint, what went down with your guys last week? The loss to Coastal, then losing 2 out of 3 to Georgia over the weekend.
Yeah, you're right. We had a tough stretch, tough go about it. Really, I guess several of our last 8 games, 7 of 8, 8 and 9, whatever it is. A lot of close games, some extra inning games in there. When those things happen, you got a pitch you want back, or you got an at bat against you that you want back from a pitching standpoint, just about every single time. And for the most part, we've been fairly consistent. Some guys have done a nice job, but we've got to get better. We've got to, tighten some things up, especially when we're in those one-run games and tie ball games as much as we have been in the last 10 days or so.
Well, Jack Weinkoop, interesting use of him over the weekend. Give me your thinking about why you guys used him the way you did, and what are your plans for him moving forward?
Well, the reason we used the way we did, he was going to start game 2 for us, and game 2 was the start. It just happened to be a suspended game, a sudden death kind of game where Jack's one of our best, and you could approach it like a start, even though we were starting that game in the 9th inning or whatever we had in front of us, with really the bottom of the order that ran really well. That thinking on top of it was Jack holds runners well. It's tougher to steal off of him if they do get a guy on, and he held him down for a couple innings, and we tried to see if we could get an opportunity to score. We did it last year in a suspended game just because he was lined up, prepared, and ready to start. Just didn't work out for us this time when they scratched for a run in the top of the 11th.
And you continue to use him out of the bullpen later in the weekend. Was that because you had used him some innings in that suspended game, and you started Schmidt on Sunday, and you still felt like you could get some innings out of him?
Yeah, he felt good, and he said, I'm good to go, and based on his pitch count, is just like any other reliever at that point. And when he was available and we had an opportunity, late in that game, we decided to run him back out there, and still threw less pitches than he would over the course of the weekend. Is he suited for that? Well, he's in good shape, and he's pretty loose in his arm action. We felt like it was the right thing to do. Felt like it was safe. If he would have had any soreness or didn't feel comfortable at all, we wouldn't have thought about it. But when he threw that suspended game and went a short outing there, we decided to bring him back when he said he felt good. So that, on top of he's one of our most consistent guys, and to have him out there at the end was I think one of the strengths of our team is having a guy out there that guys have a lot of trust in, and hopefully that's the majority of our guys, but Jack's at the top of that list.
No Taylor Widener this weekend. What was up with him?
Well, Jack was available. Jack had been throwing the ball better than probably Taylor has in the last 2 or 3 outings overall. So that's kind of why we got the ball in his hands late in that game, and when he got a couple quick outs, and Jack did, and when he first got in, we decided to stick with him and had Taylor right behind him if he faltered at all. And we got into that 9th, and a couple guys got on, and we could have went to 10, we would have went one more hitter, that type of thing. But it wasn't by design. It was it was a weekend that didn't go by design for sure. So
Yeah.
that was just another part of it.
All right. So this coming weekend in Mississippi State, does Jack go back to his Saturday starting role? Does Wagner go back to being your closer?
The weekend series is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So Jack will start game 2. Will will start game 1 on Thursday, and the rotation on the weekend will stay the same. Taylor Wagner's obviously still a short guy in our bullpen that we're going to run out there late in the games in closed situations. There's no reason to change that at this point.
What about tomorrow night at the Citadel? Who do you plan to start?
We'll start Tyler Haswell. He's got 1 start under his belt, a couple of relief appearances, a younger guy that we feel like is got a very good chance to contribute. And, we've done some live scrimmages and some live settings, situational scrimmages during the week when he hasn't gotten in, and he's looked sharp. So we're going to run him out there and hopefully get us off to a good start and have a chance to use some of the guys that are fresh in our bullpen that maybe haven't thrown that much and be able to kind of piece together the second half of that game if Tyler can get us off to a good start.
Well, you guys, if my memory serves me right, I think you've lost your last 2 midweek games. I think Winthrop and then Coastal, and then after going 1 and 2 this weekend, got to believe tomorrow night sort of you need to win a ball game kind of thing and get yourself back in the right frame of mind before you go to Starkville. Yeah,
well, we won a ball game yesterday. We felt good about what we did, and going into midweek on a short week, starting the series in Starkville on Thursday. It is an important game, just like every other game is. The next one on your schedule, and it's one that we hopefully can get some continuity with off of what we did on Sunday, and hopefully it leads to some bigger and better things. We feel like we haven't been very consistent in really in all 3 phases of the game at one point in time, and but there's been some other times where each of those phases have clicked a little bit. We just need to get them going all at the same time, where we can play defense and feel like we're putting some pressure on offensively throughout an entire ball game and pitch as consistently as we can, and hopefully utilize some depth on the mound as well and have a bunch of guys contributing.
Are you allowing, as a pitching staff, more walks than you would like at this point?
I would say a clip of about 3 per 9. We're a little bit above that. I think everybody is with the new baseball. It's something that we saw in the fall. I was a little concerned with in the fall based on some of the movement we were getting on some pitches. I think our guys have done a much better job this spring of with the exception of some poor spurts where we've walked too many. I think in the most did it pretty well. We've gotten a few more strikeouts, which you hope in turn takes care of an extra walk that you might be averaging at times. But I think it's noticeable at times, but it's not significant. We want to be in this position where we're not. I'd say we're a little bit above where we need to be as a whole. But again, they've come in some spurts that those are usually worse than spreading them out. So when we spread them out, you can usually get away with it. When you walk back to back, or you get a couple in leadoff scenarios where you walk that leadoff guy like we've done a few too many times, usually it's trouble.
Coach, as always, we appreciate your time. Good luck to you moving forward this week. You got some Bulldogs ahead of you, Citadel tomorrow night, and then Mississippi State on the road, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you very much. Jerry Myers, USC pitching coach. So things should go back to normal. But like he pointed out, it was anything but a normal weekend for South Carolina and Georgia this past weekend.
And, of course, they had some Bulldogs over the past weekend.
That's true. That's right.
Georgia's only lost 1 game on the road, have they not? In SEC play.
No, they lost 3. No, they were at home against Missouri. You're
That's
right.
what I'm saying, on the road. I think they play better on the road than they do at home.
7 straight games against Bulldogs for the Gamecocks. Might be a record.
It's one of the best feelings of my life, and I think it's because it touches so many people.
Thanks to Jerry Myers for being with us here on Sports Talk. With a big story this week, yes, it's bigger than spring football. It's bigger than regular season baseball right now. It is the Final Four, and our state is involved in the stinking Final Four, the women's Final Four. I'll take it. Maybe one day we'll be talking about the men's Final Four here. Who knows? But we do know we talk about the women's Final Four, and Dawn Staley has USC headed to Tampa. And after the main press conference yesterday, she got together with the South Carolina media boys and girls to express her feelings about this great moment of getting to the Final Four.
It's one of the best feelings of my life. And I think it's because it touches so many people. Our team, our fans, our community. And it's terrific.
This is even more gratifying because, you didn't shy away from it back in the preseason when you said, hey, the goal is to get to the Final Four, win the national championship, and now you're just 2 wins away.
It is gratifying. And I think sometimes when, people, you're not going to catch people by surprise. You need to put it out there. You need to put a lofty goal out there for our players who to achieve. And, once they focused in on it, they were determined. They're young, bright, intelligent, and driven. And when you give them goals, they figure out a way to achieve them. And I'm happy for them for that.
Coach, you guys blew a lot of people away in the regular season. Didn't have to face as much adversity, but 2 games here in the regional in Greensboro, you're battling to the very end. What does it say about your team knowing that they can thrive under any situation?
It means that we're a resilient group. It's a team that has not stayed in the moment, has not got too high with the highs or too low with the lows. We just stay poised. And once you're able to stay poised as our team did this weekend and last weekend, I think it puts you in a position to, think clearly and make good decisions out there. And when you're able to do that, you win a lot of basketball games.
It seemed like you guys were very comfortable, even though you guys were maybe down in the closing stretch. It seemed like there wasn't any air of panic. It was like, we've been here before, we know what to do.
Yeah, there wasn't. Our team, really trusts itself. Trust the people that are in the game, and the people that are, not in the game. They trust that people will make good decisions and make good plays. And of course, the game has its ups and downs, but I think for the most part, the trust factor is always there. And when you're able to trust the people that you're with and stay determined, you feel real good about your chances of winning basketball games.
What will you tell your players about how to deal with being in the Final Four?
Well, I will draw on my experience as a player. The first time that I went, we were really just happy to be there. Just all the excitement, we soaked it in. And then when it was time to play the game, we were like, deer with it, in headlights. For our players, we won't be that way. We will enjoy the moment, But we're going there with the same kind of focus, the same kind of determination to win a national championship, and we won't lose sight of that.
Coach, knowing that your team can win the way you did the past 2 games, what does that do for the mindset as they go into the Final Four?
Well, anytime you go into and you're gonna have to grind it out. You're gonna see opponents that bring something a little bit different than you've seen. But the good thing about our team is we played in a really tough conference. We just played, probably, a team that you'll see in the Final Four in the next year or two in Florida State, because they are a very good basketball team. So we'll draw on those experiences to prep us for what we'll see, on Sunday.
Dylan, you said back in April you thought you had a Final Four quality team. So 11 months later, it's reality. How did planting those seeds 11 months ago help your team realize their potential and make it reality?
Well, you do have to plant seeds. You have to be real calculated when you deal with young people. And when we lost to North Carolina last year in the Sweet 16, I knew what type of team we were bringing back. So I just wanted to make sure they knew that we were going to be talking about Final Four and national championship all season long. And we started at the beginning of the season when we got our young players in, and that's all they've been talking about. And sometimes it takes the onus off of self and put it more into the goal. And it's worked out perfectly for us this year.
All right, Dawn Staley, the Gamecocks shot 61% in a pressure-packed game against a good defensive team. They shoot 61%. They score 80 points yesterday. They only turned it over 12 times. They ended up, kind of catching up in the rebounding department after getting hammered early, though Florida State did have 16 offensive boards.
They shot free throws well down the stretch, too.
Yes, they did. I think they hit their last 5 free throws. All right, to the recruiting reports. And, of course, South Carolina over the weekend had their big junior day. Picked up 2 commitments. Wide receiver Brian Edwards, 6'3", 208 from Conway. He's the first in-state commitment for USC. for 2016. Georgia had been strong on him as well. Some of his other offers: Clemson, Virginia Tech, Florida, Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, Wake Forest, and Cal. Early on, Clemson appeared to be in strong shape with him, but the Tigers moved in another direction in recruiting receivers, and so the Gamecocks sort of strengthened their position with him from that point moving forward and stayed on him very strongly and ended up getting the commitment. Running back C.J. Freeman from Greensboro, North Carolina, 5'11", 190. He, too, committed to South Carolina while in for the junior day over the past weekend, and he's had a terrific career. He's rushed for 3,800 yards and 48 touchdowns the last 2 seasons and winning state championships for Johnny Roscoe. You know Johnny, former Hartsville and Lancaster coach. And he's had the Gamecocks high on his list for some time. Virginia Tech was strong with him as well. Also offers from West Virginia, Wake Forest, and Washington State. He does plan to continue with his recruiting activities. He's not shutting anything down, as he will take other visits, but right now he is committed to USC. Defensive end Javon Kinlaw from Goose Creek was in Saturday, but did not end up committing to the Gamecocks. He says he's putting things on hold for a while. He said the Gamecocks were not ready to accept a commitment from him on Saturday, but he said everything was nice. He loves it there. He's still favoring South Carolina, but he wants to weigh all his options at this point in time, and those could include Clemson, Florida, Florida State, Alabama's offered, Louisville, East Carolina, Auburn, Florida, Florida State have been the other ones, along with Clemson, that have stood out for him. The Gamecocks offered defensive back Thomas Jones from Lawrence on Saturday, 6'3", 200. North Carolina recently offered. He also has Duke, Charlotte, Miami of Ohio. He plans to go to Clemson for the spring game, April 11th. He really enjoyed his time at South Carolina, enjoyed visiting with John Hoke and getting to meet him. He said people like him because of his size at 6'3", 200, big enough to play safety and fast enough to play corner. Right now, no favorite for him after the weekend. Basketball, 6'4" Jamal Gregory of Washington made his official to USC over the weekend with his mother. Plans to have a decision by Wednesday. It's either USC or Kansas State. He has not visited Kansas State at this point, and it does look good for South Carolina with him coming off the visit. South Point cornerback Nick McLeod visiting Northwestern and picked up an offer from Northwestern. Wildcats appear to be strong with him right now. Arkansas offered USC commitment receiver Kyle Davis, and Clemson target defensive lineman Charles Wiley from Georgia committed to Mississippi over the weekend. Top of the hour break, and we'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, State Man Graham Pope. Coming up, Dabo Sweeney will talk about today's spring practice for the Tigers. Jadar Johnson got a little banged up, not on the practice field, but on asphalt. A little bit of a moped situation going on there. Yep. I think more football players get hurt on mopeds than they do playing football. We got him coming up. Duggar Balcom, the new basketball coach at the Citadel. We'll hear from him. Also, some comments from Greg Elliott, coach of the South Carolina boys team that lost in the Carolinas All-Star Classic over the weekend. Head coach from Summerville. Got that coming your way also. Let's jump back into your phone calls. And it's Ray and Dylan up with us next here on Sports Talk. Hi, Ray. Welcome in.
Thank you. What's the latest updating on Avery McCall? Who's he considering? Who's considering him? And what your forecast might be?
I think North Carolina and East Carolina might be the two, and maybe NC State, but he was at North Carolina or was supposed to go to North Carolina for a junior day a couple of weekends ago, and East Carolina's been strong on him. Tennessee's had some interest. USC and Clemson, not that much. They might look at him as an athlete, but not as a quarterback right now. Old Dominion, where his teammate signed, Arion Hayes, he'll go to Old Dominion if he can go there from an academic standpoint. If not, he's going to Georgia Military. LSU, where you got a Dylan guy as a recruiter. So those are the ones right now. But really, I think North Carolina and East Carolina might be two of the main ones. I'll try to reach out to him and get an update on him this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Answered his question.
Yeah,
So at least he might get more offers now, as you know, that LSU's after him, because apparently he's got the chest.
Well, I don't know how strongly they are after him, but Kevin Steele being there now would certainly have a connection. Then again, Texas A&M might take. Look, Avery. I mean, this tells you how little I know about quarterbacking. It might surprise you.
That does not actually surprise me.
Why is everybody shaking their head, not nodding their head? Statement, you're back there shaking your head vociferously.
But see,
I just think we all acknowledge it's very nice.
Or vigorously.
I've
seen this kid play.
Okay.
And he throws a beautiful ball. And he's a great athlete.
So that tells
he's
you
6'2". He's I don't get it. And he runs. He escapes. He's hard to tackle.
He sounds like the perfect fit for that open East Carolina offense.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I think he would go to East Carolina, and he's also a terrific baseball player too. But yeah, in that East Carolina offense, shoot, he might make him forget all about Shane. Who's the guy that already forgotten about it. Shane Carden. Of course, it helps to have a receiver that catches everything within 100 feet of him. J.J. Hardy. Yep. All right, Dabo is coming up. right, quick update. Dayton and top-ranked Connecticut,
I'm
5
shocked.
minutes in. It's 13-13 in the final of the Albany Regional. Wouldn't that be something as Dayton just takes a 15-13 lead? All right, let's get to Dabo Swinney. Dabo Swinney visiting with the media a little while ago. Tigers had another spring practice today as we head down the home stretch of spring practice. And here's a Dabo taking questions from the media and giving the answers.
I saw Jadar's in some yellow. What happened with his move?
I had a little moped scuffle with a moped. He should be all right.
At some point, are you going to ban guys riding mopeds?
Never. You can't. You know, they gotta handle their business. You know, just wear helmets and be safe. Whether you're in a car or a moped, riding a bike, whatever it is, just, you know, be safe. Sometimes there's things you don't control. It doesn't, you know, just. But anyway, I ride a moped, but I wear a helmet. I do wear a helmet. I ride all over town. Everybody knows who I am. I just cruise all over the place. Love it. It's fun.
How was practice today?
It was good. It was good practice. You know, really tough couple of days last week, Wednesday, Friday. You know, today was going back and kind of reteaching some things. A lot of fundamental time today. And it was an all-thud practice, but we still had some really good competitive work. Finished up with a competitive third down, win or lose drill, and then a 4th and 2 on the goal line type of drill. So it was good. Good day. Just trying to get them ready for this big scrimmage on Wednesday. Guys will be off Thursday and Friday, and then we'll come back and have 2 more good days next Monday and Wednesday, and then Thursday will be our last day in shorts where we split the team and we kind of teach them a little bit skills and drills for the summer and stuff. Then we obviously play the spring game. But once we come back, you know, we really want to. We've got practice structured to kind of let them play a little bit. Full scrimmage on Wednesday, and then Monday and Wednesday of next week will be kind of a half and half. You know, half practice and half scrimmage work. You know, we just got to keep putting some of these guys in some situations so they can improve. And you know, the more we put them in that, the better they're going to be. And then we'll button it all up with the spring game, and then review everything, give them some really good feedback as they go into the summer. But you know, I've said this a couple of times. You know, I really like this team. I really like the competitiveness of this team. I like the spirit of this group. I think this is going to be a fun team to coach.
As you get closer to the end of spring, I mean, at what point will Deshaun during the summer just be able to do everything he would if he got hurt?
Yeah, he'll be, once we get back going in summer one, he'll be able to do all the skill and drill stuff. Obviously, we're not tackling people or having football practice in the summer, but we are doing skills and drills. He'll be able to do all that stuff, and you know, they'll have a plan as far as his weightlifting and all that. But he looks great. He looks great.
Yeah, but you're glad to see Jamon seems to finally get it, and he's kind of focused the way he's supposed to be.
Yeah, he's having his best spring. That's for sure. He had his best season. He's kind of following that up. Been a guy that's been much more focused on being a good player and doing what he's got to do to be a good player. He's really been great in meetings as far as being very attentive and taking notes and asking questions, and his engagement at practice, all of those things, you know. But he's going into that junior year, and he had just enough success last year to know that, hey, he could be pretty good, but he also had just enough failure that he was inconsistent, and he realizes that he's, you know, he didn't really quite have the spring that he needed last year, or the summer for that matter. So, you know, but I think he's maturing like we hoped he would after this past year. So we'll you know, keep working with him, but there's no doubt about the fact that he can really help us. He shows up. You know, he's working as a return guy for us as well. So, you know, all's good with him right now. Doing a nice job, and you know, I haven't got anything on him all spring. Nothing. I mean, he goes to class. He's doing everything he's supposed to do. You know, that's just a real sign of maturity and more commitment.
Is Jermon or anyone else showing scoring ability at return?
Yeah. We've worked really hard on the return game this spring. We'll probably do some live return stuff in the spring game this year, as a matter of fact. But really pleased with what I've seen. Out of TJ and Dahlman and some of those Artavis, some of those other guys that we put on the back in the kickoff return, and then Jermon and Tay and Ryan Carter. Those guys, Renfro, those have all been guys that have been working at the punt return spot and doing a nice job.
What have you seen out of Tyrone Crowder this spring?
Great improvement. Just tremendous improvement. Big step from where he was this time last year. Just night and day. We're very encouraged with him. He's as going into his redshirt sophomore year. He's where we hoped he would be, and where we need him to be. He's good football player. He's got 4 seniors in that starting group, and he's the only sophomore. And then he's really, I think, just grown up a ton. His body's in good shape. He's really done a nice job of buying into the conditioning part of what we need. He's obviously very strong. He's just much more knowledgeable and confident because of that.
Has the communication on the offensive line improved over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah. We got to. This is, we had a big personnel meeting this morning, and then, I just really excited about our offensive line. As pleased and as excited as I've been since I've been at Clemson, 12 years. They got the right makeup. We got that first group, like I said a week or so ago, the chemistry, the want to, the desire, the toughness, knowledge. I mean, that's a group right now that's really doing a nice job for us. And then you flip behind it, and it's Falcinelli and Morris and Hearn and those 4 freshmen that just got here. And they're not all ready to be great players today, but man, they're going to be, because they want to be. It's important to them. They're passionate about it. They're going. You don't have to worry about. That they're doing everything that they can to improve. And know that we've got a whole room of guys that are fully committed to being great offensive linemen and doing what it takes to do that. That's a great place to be in as a coach.
Would you prefer it's an older group at the end, once you get here in September?
They'll all be an older group because they will have been through spring, and we don't have any linemen coming in. We've got a couple of walk-on guys that we're excited about that are going to join the group, and they're all here. They'll be a spring and a summer older, but
this is for the seniors versus the freshmen.
No, we just want good players. Whoever the good players are, guys that are going to go out and perform at a high level. That's all we're interested in. Doesn't matter if they're a senior or a freshman. That's. I mean, if everything's even, we all, if it's a tie, you go to the veteran guy, but best guy's going to play. But it's clear cut right now. That veteran group is really definitely out front. Mitch Hyatt is very, very close, with that group. He's not far. He just got to have kind of put it all together this summer. And I think Drew Morgan is really coming as well. Noah, man, just got all the tools, tough. Still putting it all together, working him in at some guard, and then Zach Giella. It's probably been a bigger transition for him, but it should be. Coming from a smaller school, and he's got all the tools, and he's working center, working guard as well. But all 4 of those guys can flat out play.
All right, Dabo Swinney from Clemson's practice today, feeling good about those young linemen, as he should. I tell you, I've been reading up on their recruiting. Paul Strelo had an interesting article on TigerIllustrated.com breaking down the number of 5-star signees and 4-star signees Clemson has had here in the last few years. Might have been Chris Ard that wrote it, one of them. But it just goes back to the point I made last week. They are putting together the talent level to be in a position in their league to get to the national championship playoff. Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Let's go to our Twitterologist, K-Mac, who's been monitoring the timeline for any insightful, juicy comments that our followers might be sharing with us.
Okay, yeah, we tweeted out a link to a story in Sporting News with Dabo Swinney responding to HBO's John Oliver, who took a not-so-subtle shot at Dabo Swinney on his HBO program a couple of weeks ago about Sweeney's stance on the NCAA and compensating players, and there's been some response to that. Tigers for life, so I think we know where his allegiance is. Yeah, he says that who is John Oliver? He said he's a nobody trying to get famous, and I pointed out that
he's succeeding.
He's on HBO. So, I mean, usually when you have your own show on HBO, you've kind of passed the point of trying to get famous. You can disagree with this point, but he's kind of past that point. And then he responded, who watches HBO? No one. And I had to point out that, you know, HBO is arguably, you know, the most successful cable channel out there right now in terms of profit and the shows that they put out, some of the all-time great shows. Like, you know, and maybe you heard of The Sopranos, The Wire. That was an HBO show too, wasn't it? And you know, John Oliver's show, Real Time. So HBO is doing okay for itself. In addition to the movies and documentaries, Real Sports, and the other things that
they're not shutting down anytime soon.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, to each his own. Weston says he highly doubts Clemson is on fire. He said, let's look at the numbers because somebody pointed out that the only thing that John Oliver was trying to do is take Clemson down a peg because they are doing so well in terms of their on-the-field success. So they were sitting around undoubtedly in a writers' meeting in Los Angeles or New York or wherever they do that show and said, you know what we really need to do? We need to take Clemson down a peg because they're on fire. No, but Pope, you have the numbers. Go ahead.
Just for kicks to back you up, so I looked it up for kicks. Compared to Netflix, they make twice what Netflix does, who's obviously a booming company as well. But they, in 2013, it looks like they netted $30 billion. So yeah, they're doing.
Is that with a B?
Yes, B. HBO does very, very well for themselves. Very well.
Yeah, hanging in there.
Yeah.
And John Oliver, of course, he's got a relatively new show. He was on Comedy Central working with Jon Stewart on The Daily Show.
Who's leaving, by the way?
Who is leaving, and they're hiring another guy to replace him, I guess.
Some guy from Australia, I think.
South Africa, Australia. Yeah, very much the same.
They're below the equator.
Two completely different countries on different continents, but hey, don't worry about it.
What else you got for me?
Let's see what else we have here. Some people responding to your question. It's a poll question, actually. If there's a rematch, would USC beat UConn? And there seems to be everybody that's at least responded via Twitter is saying no.
Saying no? Well, the voting so far, the majority say no, 61% to 38%. But you know what? UConn's got some work to do.
Up to 2.5 against Dayton.
Yeah, I mean, when it's tight like this and you're the big favorite and it goes into the second half and it's tight, who's the pressure on? Of course, UConn's been through all this before. They probably won't feel any pressure. Back in a moment. Now they're actually still playing in the first half of that game between Dayton and UConn. It's 35-35 with 6:40 to go in the first half. Dayton is hanging in there. Some comments from Duggar Balkum, the new basketball coach at the Citadel, and also Greg Elliott from Somerville High School, coach of the South Carolina boys team. The boys and girls teams from South Carolina both lost Saturday night at Sac City High School in the Carolinas All-Star Classic. Terrific job, though, by John Rhodes and the beach ball people who put that on. It's getting, in terms of attendance, it gets bigger every year. Almost had a full house at Sac City for those two games. Not quite. I'm not going to exaggerate it. Not quite full, but it was more than 2/3 full. And folks need to get behind this. 18 years now, thinking of this like the Shrine Bowl. It is the Shrine Bowl without the Shrine Bowl being involved, but it's that concept of the South Carolina versus North Carolina. You have some very good players in both games on both teams competing at a very high level. I really like the way the players got after it Saturday night. And we'll hear from Coach Elliott and get his thoughts about his team's performance and the opportunity to coach in this game. Back to the phones we go, and it is going to be Buddy in Simpsonville with us next here on Sports Talk. Buddy, how are you? Welcome in.
What do you say, guys? Y'all doing all right, I hope?
We're doing great, buddy. How about you?
I'm doing good. Listen, I just, I don't know if y'all know this, but I kind of want to pass this on. I guess back in January, I was kind of flipping through the old TV, and I saw this Real Sports with Brian Gumbel on it, and I kind of stopped and started watching it. Well, they were doing a little 30 or 15-minute deal on everything that went on up in North Carolina, and I got kind of interested, and I wasn't really, so I just kind of took it on my own, started looking back and researching and, reading everything I could. And let me tell you something, I never seen so much written on one situation like that situation up there with the academic fraud and all this kind of stuff going on. Well, one of the, just about everybody was writing on it, and one of the thing was a thing that CNN put out. They actually went and interviewed the lady up there. This was a whistleblower.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called, y'all need to write this down because you can go look at it. It's called CNN Analysis. And then it has one of those slashes in it. And it says, some college athletes play like adults, read like fifth graders. Mm-hmm. Well, I plugged it in and looked at it, and I said, well, this must be about, North Carolina. This is one of the articles I was reading. And so I plugged it in, and what it was that CNN had written about 40 colleges, universities, I think it was 38, and had asked, they don't call it freedom of information anymore, it's another name,
mm-hmm.
and they asked all these colleges and universities about their academic requirements as far as a SAT or the ACT. And, the 400 was considered I guess, failing. I don't know how I should say it, but if you didn't score up at least 400 on the reading and writing and comprehension, then you were considered, it says illiterate. And so, anyway, but it had all the schools up there they sent letters to for this information thing. Of course, they sent them just about anybody. And on the top line going across, it had everybody's logo up there. And about the fourth, fifth one over was, of course, I checked Clemson and South Carolina. So I pulled up Clemson's and read it. Well, you pull it up and read all the information, and right below the information you read, you push that, and it goes to another page. And I couldn't believe it. Clemson responded to what they asked for. And like I said, I didn't see what they asked for, but they were looking to see how many of their student athletes, and mainly they wanted football, basketball, and girls basketball, scored underneath that, and it was 4 years. And they sent the information to them. They had the scores. Didn't have their names. They had the scores in football, basketball, and girls basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And it was they had a ton of them that didn't qualify, and they sent them out. And so I checked South Carolina's, and they did the smart thing. They just didn't respond. And there were several of the schools. You can check them all. You can look and read what they submitted. Some of them say, well, we don't have those records, and on and on and on. And so I said, golly, I said, what idiot up there? And this didn't have anything to do with any of the coaches or anything like this. This was admittance of the school.
And so what you're
was
saying
letting
is
these people in.
What you're saying is what you're saying they should not have responded to the request, or they should not have.
Well, I
let
wouldn't
these
have sent
people
what I
in?
sent. If you read what everybody else sent, I mean, they sent nothing. And half of them responded and half of them didn't respond at all.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that, not only is that thing bad at North Carolina, that's probably the worst. It's worse than SMU, in my opinion, what they did up there. And people need to read that. They even did their own in-house study, and it's called the Wainwright Report. You ought to read that. It's unbelievable what they did. I mean, they trace it all the way back to Dean Smith. And I'm going to tell you, the NCAA is between a rock and a hard place. In my opinion, North Carolina should be banned for 2 or 3 years. And you know that's not going to happen. See, the NCAA is a lot like the UN. It's in name only.
Yeah.
And
there's certain fights. There's certain fights that they don't want to pick, and
that's one of them. Yeah,
and certain fights they have no trouble picking.
Well, it's almost. I was about to say it's almost like the economic crisis we went through, and when they were calling the banks and other financial institutions too big to fail. Maybe North Carolina is one of those schools too big to fail.
Well, this thing here now, I know what they did at SMU. They just paid the players.
Yes.
I don't have a problem. I mean, that's what they're talking about doing right now legally. But my point is, I don't think that's as bad as having the academic fraud they had at North Carolina, and they were letting students in there that didn't deserve to be there.
Well, and
they were taking paper classes.
Yeah, when it comes to I don't think anybody. I mean, it's one thing when you cheat to get recruits. I mean, that's bad. I'm not going to lie to you. That's bad when you pay a recruit to come to your school, whether it's hard money or it's a car or a job for a family member, and that helps you win. You know, that's a competitive advantage, and that's bad. But when you start manipulating grades or creating
that's true.
or creating hypothetical entire colleges or degrees that don't exist, that aren't real, that is so wide ranging that it goes beyond comprehension.
You're cheating
compared
the
to what we see.
student. You remember the story of Jimmy Johnson, Oklahoma State. Dexter Manley couldn't read.
Hey, thank you so much, buddy, for your phone call. We appreciate that. It's going to be very interesting. I hate to keep using that phrase, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in this North Carolina case. And, you know, there is pressure. There's a lot of pressure on the NCAA because if they don't come down hard on North Carolina, then it's going to look like they were treated with kid gloves. But you also have to be fair. You have to be fair as an organization and do the right thing. Now, is the right thing going to be coming down hard and hard enough to – I guess you can't – in the minds of a lot of people who want blood out of North Carolina, just like they want blood out of Notre Dame, these schools that have always been looked at as being holier than thou in the eyes of the NCAA, people want blood. You know, they want these schools to feel the sting of the NCAA enforcement committee, like many schools have for a variety of silly reasons. So you know, what's the old saying? I'll make it up here as I think about it, but it was like somebody at the NCAA gets mad at Notre Dame for doing something, and they put Jackson State on probation or something like that.
Yeah,
that was the old saying. And so people want the justice to be carried out in this case, but I think they also want North Carolina's head in a noose, and they want them dealt with severely. You look at Syracuse and what's happening up there, and that's got fraudulent issues around it, but that pales, I believe, in comparison to what we've got going on at North Carolina. And you see how hard Syracuse is getting hammered. Be right back.
Everybody says, why the Citadel?
Well, for the first time since 2011, Connecticut is trailing at halftime, 44-43 to the 7th seed Dayton Flyers in the final of the regional at Albany. How about that? Now, sticking with basketball, Duggar Balcom from VMI today named the new coach of the Citadel Bulldogs, and here's some of what he said after accepting.
Everybody says, why the Citadel? It is as close to my dream job as I could have. When I grew up in Charlotte, I'm from Charlotte. The Citadel's only 3 hours away. And I had the opportunity to witness guys go to the Citadel. And I'll be the first to admit, I don't know that in high school at 17 years old, I was tough enough to do that. But guys that were just a little bit extra special, this is where they went to school. I ended up at VMI. When I was growing up, I didn't know what VMI was. I just knew what the Citadel was. When I thought of a military college, I thought of the Citadel. So it's always had a special place in my heart. And then when I was my first college job at Davidson, we got here and the cadets stomping and yelling. I said, that's at Western Carolina and the Southern Conference assistant, the same thing. Little did I know that one day I'd be standing in front of all of y'all, which makes that really, really special to me. Our style of play, Jim mentioned it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be difficult for my guys here in uniform. Everybody thinks, they run and gun, it's undisciplined. It's just the exact opposite. You have to be a lot more disciplined to run up and down that court every possession than you have to do to walk it up and down. These guys will experience that when we go through preseason conditioning in August and September. It's a pretty difficult task, but that's what our style of play is going to be like. We're going to be up-tempo. We're going to shoot threes. We're going to get the ball in the post, try to get the best shot we can, and then we're going to press, attack, and do all the other things. I've been fortunate. I've played the Citadel, I guess, the last six times, and I was fortunate enough to win 5 of those. We're getting ready to turn that around. Okay, it's going the other way. Okay.
All right, it's going to be a lot of fun. This guy is a really good coach, and I enjoyed watching his VMI teams play in the Big South and now in the Southern Conference. So
weren't they the ones that just jacked up a bunch of threes?
Yeah, and run. They average 80-something, 90. They had those twins a couple of years ago that were among the NCAA's leading scorers and just play an exciting brand of basketball. So we'll see if he can get it done at the Citadel.
You mentioned the way they play, and interestingly enough, Charleston Southern played that way a few years ago when they had no height. That's what makes Kentucky so dangerous, is because their big men can guard the perimeter.
Yeah. All right, now Saturday night, South Carolina boys and girls lost in the Carolinas All-Star Classic to their counterparts at North Carolina. Coach Greg Elliott from Summerville, the head coach of the South Carolina boys team, They fell behind by about 10 points and tried to make a run in the second half, but just could not cool off a hot shooting North Carolina team. Here's Coach Elliott talking to me about it after the game.
They hit three like Steph Curry range, about 28 feet, Phil, or whatever. I think they hit 11 threes. We dug ourselves a hole and got down 15, guy to 10, guy 4. We just couldn't get that rock all the way up the hill to start coasting down. But they shot lights out. We missed some easy shots, I thought, early on. It didn't roll in. But, hey, we played hard. Probably could have done a little better job defensively, but, had a good weekend with the kids. And you're going to see these guys play again, next level.
No question about that. And you guys were down 10 at the break. You seemed like you came out in the second half with some renewed energy. You hit some shots early, kind of got some things going your way. But then again, North Carolina responded with their own offense.
We wanted to hit a 3 coming out of the timeout. I mean, at the second half to get a little momentum, like an onside kick. And Tevin Mack drained it. We got some energy, and I thought that kind of boosted us, but we could just never get a big stop and a big basket. We couldn't get a score and a stop, and that kind of hurt us.
Yeah, you told me Friday night in practice, defense really wasn't on the minds of your players.
No, they haven't played basketball in 2 or 3 weeks, so we did a little bit of defensive stuff, but I figured they've been coached well at the high school level. They know how to guard, but you can't guard 28-foot jump shots very well, and I thought that was there. They hit 11 threes, then we hit 5.
And you think about that North Carolina team, too, very balanced offense. They had several guys in double figures. You really couldn't leave any of them alone.
Every time we got a missed assignment, they made us pay. On some putbacks, they made us pay. We had a big miss, and we turned the ball, and they got a dunk. Thought that was kind of a dagger in our back water field.
Tevin Mack, 27 points tonight. What do you think of him?
He's an NBA player. He is an NBA player. There's no doubt in my mind. That kid is long, athletic, and he's just a good kid. I think he's a humble kid. He's hungry. So, yeah, you'll see that kid play in the NBA. I believe he's that good.
What do you take away from your few days here in Myrtle Beach working with these All-Stars?
Just good to be an ambassador for the state of South Carolina basketball. And, North Carolina's got a great basketball tradition. And, we had a great 4 days here, and we would like to win, but we had a couple of kids we want to get some exposure to, so they might get an opportunity to play. 8 of our team already signed, so we wanted to make sure those kids had a chance to get some exposure. So that was more important than probably to win. But, again, we wanted to win.
Coach, thank you very much, and enjoy your offseason.
Will do. Thank you, Phil.
Okay, Greg Elliott from Summerville. There are other coaches at Summerville besides John McKissick. They're just have not won as much as he has. All right, got a couple of more minutes to go in the program. If you want to jump on board with a quick final comment or question, we'll certainly welcome you in. 800-956-7266. Got our website, sportstalksc.com. And be sure to visit us on Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network. Coming up this week, of course, we'll have more leading up to South Carolina's women's trip to Tampa for the Final Four. Of course, we'll be covering that, covering baseball. Wednesday night, 6:30, Mookie Wilson will be our guest here on Sports Talk. Looking forward to visiting with one of the all-time greats from our state, Major League Baseball standouts. Did he play his entire career with the Mets in the majors? Did he play anywhere else at the end?
I can't recall him playing, but I think he did. I'm not sure. But, yeah, tremendous. To me, Mookie still didn't get the credit for his defense in center field.
Yeah.
He was tremendous.
He could run it down, man. Tell you what, he could run it down. Wade, in case you're wondering, he did play for the Blue Jays?
Okay.
In case you're wondering, my NCAA men's bracket nationally is number 3,106,784. But I'm at 73.2%, which tells you how many brackets are in there. I only have 2 in the Final Four. I only have Kentucky and Puke. Where do you stand, K-Mac?
I'm way down there.
Are you below me?
Yes, I'm definitely below.
Where are you below me as well?
54.2%. How many points do you have?
I have 820 points.
Okay, I'm 60 points behind you.
Mm-hmm. State man, where do you have any idea where you just?
I've not officially checked, but you and I had very similar brackets, and I have Kentucky and Puke left.
Yeah, I have Duke. I think I had Arizona getting in over Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have – the biggest thing I didn't have is I didn't have Michigan State going that far.
In our Bojangles Bracket Buster competition, we're coming down to the wire. And let's see, USC West 151, or is that 15? USC West 15. And Stu Raiders 1980. MB Cox 1. They're tied for the lead at 99.8. That's pretty good. 1,050 points. So without looking at each individual bracket, I wonder how many, if they have all of the final, how many of the Final Four each of them have. 2 of them are picking Kentucky to win the championship. One's picking Duke. So it's going to come right down to the wire as to who wins our Bojangles Bracket Buster competition. All right, K-Mac, final thoughts?
Big game for the Lakers tonight. They need to lose to the 76ers. So that is
what a terrible mindset.
It is.
It's so anti-American.
I can't stand it.
Meantime, the Celtics in the playoffs right now with a big game going on right now in Charlotte against our nemesis, the Hornets. And the Hornets are trying to catch us now. We're ahead of them.
About a half game.
Well, have yourselves a great night. We'll have another big edition of Sports Talk tomorrow night right here at 6:06. Make plans to be with us. Thank you, State Man. Good night, everybody.